All right. I believe we are live, Mr. G.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Glad to be with you today.
Yes, yes. Glad to have you here on PCL Live for sure. There's been a lot of interest in this topic on AI, and
Yeah.
so I'm excited to get started. But before we get started, we're just going to ask those of you who are logging in to please put in the comments, where you're right, where you're watching from, what city, what state, what country you're watching from, so we can just say hello, give you a shout out. Today we're talking about Workforce 2.0, and we're talking about AI and its impact on the workforce. So before we get started, just say hello and where you're watching from, what state, what city, what country. And also, too, I know that we're watching from 3 different platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So you can also place in the comments where you're watching from. So yes, when there's been a lot of buzz about this topic of AI.
Sure.
Hello from Malta. Hi. Nice to have you here, Plutura. Beautiful name. Beautiful name. I'd love to hear your thoughts too later on, Plutura, on just how AI is impacting you guys there. Good evening from South Africa. Nice to have you here. Well, we have 2 brave ones, so for the rest, keep joining. Denise, nice. Hi from Maryland. Good to have you here. Good to have you here. Shavana from South Africa. Hello, Casey. KC, Missouri. Hi, David. How are you? David calls from Texas. Definitely a good friend of ours. Hello from Oregon. Hi from above the clouds. Okay, wherever that may be, hi. Mozambique, hi. The Netherlands, hi. Good to have you here. And I know most of you here so far are watching on LinkedIn. So good to have you here. Talk about AI, Workforce 2.0, and adjusting to AI in the workforce. And let me just say for the record, from the very top here, Wayne and I are not coming here as experts. We're not hired by Silicon Valley. We're not in the technical parts.
Not yet.
But we are just coming here from the perspective of employers, and and from the employer perspective. Hi, Gail. Watching from Facebook, Lamar from Chicago, Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. Jennifer was my previous guest on T-Talk. Good to have you here, Jennifer, from California, Minnesota, Lexington, South Carolina, Ghana, Michigan, Germany. So we have an international crowd here. As I was saying, Wayne and I, we're not techie, we're not Silicon Valley type folks. We are employers, we are coaches, we're consultants, we're an attorney, and we use AI. But we know there's a lot of questions surrounding AI, and we wanted to bring you our perspective. There's just, there's a lot's been happening, especially last weekend where, we had the guy from AI, Sam Altman, who was kicked out, then he was asked back in, and there was just a lot and lots of concerns about AI displacing jobs, so many different things. So we want to just dive in and explore some of these questions. But Wayne, before we get started, I know people see me a lot. As a matter of fact, your name says Wayne Gill, Sharon Gill. He's half of me, folks. He's my husband. He's my husband, my attorney, my pastor, husband of 36 years. So, all right, husband of 36 years, why don't you introduce yourself, and we're going to get into it.
Sure. As Sharon says, I'm her husband. I'm also a business attorney and a business coach, and I keep it pretty active here on LinkedIn. I have a good profile where I try to post content that's good for business owners, people in leadership. Sometimes I touch on the legal aspect of things, but one thing that is touching everything I do these days is this topic of AI. So we thought it was a good time to speak to you specifically about how we're using it from a practical standpoint, both in our own businesses and also with our clients. So that's what my job is here today, to just kind of share some of those practical insights with you.
And it's hard to believe that ChatGPT was just launched a year ago, because it's permeated
Yeah.
almost every aspect of business to the point where it's displacing certain jobs, it's
Yeah.
enhancing certain jobs. And so we want to kind of get into the good, the bad, the ugly. There is so much material on this that we don't think we can cover that in one setting. So we're going to start with a
Right.
couple of questions. So Wayne, the question out there, and I'm going to just, I'm going to ask for you guys to definitely feel free to comment, feel free to put yourself in the comments. But question number one, how would you describe the current state of AI adoption in the workforce? And what trends do you see emerging in this field?
Yeah. It's interesting because your previous comment just now, I don't remember exactly what it is, but you used two words which I jotted down quickly. You talked about AI as an enhancement and then AI as displacement. And so as we look at where we are right now, I really feel like we're still really in the early adoption stages of this, that companies are learning about it. Workers are learning about it, thinking about it, maybe experimenting, trying a few things that there's a lot more to come. And I think where you find yourself in the camp of either enhancement, AI as a tool that's going to enhance what you do, make you better at what you do, make you more valuable to your company, make your company more valuable. Are you going to be in that camp, or you're going to be in the camp of the person who is doing that, who's then going to displace your job? So you can hear the panic talk about, oh, AI is coming and it's just going to wipe out every job and it's going to displace a lot of people. And that's already happening. So that's true. But the question is, where you're sitting today, what camp are you going to be in? Are you going to be in the enhancement camp, or are you going to be in the displacement camp?
And that's a question I want the audience to really think about right now as we're talking, right? Are you in the enhancement camp where it's enhancing your workflow at work?
Yes.
Even as leaders, because we're talking to leaders, we're talking to employees, right? We're talking to both sides. And we're also talking to people who are not in the workforce, who are, housewives, moms, dads, who are retirees. Which camp are you in? Are you in the enhancement camp, or are you in the displacement camp? Because one thing we can kick against the pricks here with with AI. But here's the thing: AI is here to stay. It's getting more and more pervasive, and so sticking your head in the sand is not going to help you at all. I want to even say for those people who are in the faith world, where they're like, AI is the mark of the beast, whatever you may feel. I want to burst your bubble for a little bit. AI is also writing sermons for some of these pastors. Okay, for those of you on LinkedIn, AI is doing those collaborative articles. LinkedIn was very clear. These are AI-driven articles that they're asking you to collaborate with the human voice. So AI is in every aspect. The doctor's office, and we're going to get into some of these things. AI is going to be part of your medical situation, your medical life, right? So which camp are you in? Enhancement camp? How do you see AI? An enhancer or a displacer? So Wayne, I want to talk to you about how you personally have used AI to enhance what you do as an attorney, even from the aspect of an attorney.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely not looking to get displaced. So I've decided from the very start, when I heard about Chat GPT, and of course we'll probably speak about Chat GPT the most, open AI, because that's the one that's known the most, but there are lots of other language models and so forth out there. But from the first time that I heard about it, Sharon, you said it came out in November of last year. And I first started hearing rumblings maybe in December or so. And then in January was when I actually went and got a free Chat GPT account to mess around with it. And it's interesting what you just said. Like, well, all right, even pastors are writing sermons on there. I have actually one that I printed from my own account, which I said to Chat GPT, please give me a tweet that celebrates Good Friday, including an appropriate scripture reference. That was a quote, right? And Chat GPT said back, in quotes, today we remember the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross, a display of unfathomable love and grace. And then the scripture gave me, but God demonstrates his love for us in this: while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Romans 5:8, it quotes, hashtag Good Friday, hashtag love, hashtag grace.
Right.
So this is what I'm saying, people. This is where we are today. And we can, run away from this or ignore it, or we can embrace it. Now, I didn't use that tweet and post it because I like to speak still in my own voice in a lot of these circumstances. But if it could give you that one tweet or that one take on a particular concept of Good Friday, it's infinite what it can produce. And so, we're just going to have to decide, what are we going to do about this? How are we going to embrace it in our businesses or in our faith life or in other aspects of what we do? So, Sharon, I don't think I answered your question, but you mentioned the thing about the sermon. So I thought it was funny because I printed out one of these just as an example, as the kinds of information. It's not just business, and marketing and strategy and all of that. It can do all of that, but it can also talk to you about gardening and travel and your faith life as well.
Well, before you go on about how you use it, I remember when you told me about the AI. You were in a business meeting
Yes.
you were actually at Panera and meeting with one of your clients, and a woman who was using Chat GPT, she came over to where you guys were sitting and showed you guys how to create a strategic plan,
Yes.
like a 3 to 5 year strategic plan about this client's business. And it was incredible that in the space of 1 minute to 2 minutes, this AI could create a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
And so we know AI can create strategic plans, business plans, marketing plans. I mean, you name it. I mean, there's really, it's a bottomless pit of what it can do. And so how are you, and I'll just say real quick how I've used it. I've used it. Well, let me talk about how you use it, because there's some wrong ways of using AI. I'm going to talk about that. So how are you using it as an attorney?
In a lot of ways. For one, research. So, and now the research is even enhanced, because before, speaking of Chat GPT, the research that it could access was only up to a certain point. I believe it's whatever information was on the internet up to like 2021. Now with GPT-4, we're up to 2023. Not only that, it's now married to the Bing search engine, Microsoft Bing search engine. So now you could literally go in there and ask it to go search things for you and bring information back from the web on topics that you are interested in, or topics that you need to know more about or to explore for your business or for your clients. So that's one. That's just one way. It's just research. Like, okay, I need to know more about this topic. Chat GPT. And look, people may say, well, why can't I just Google that? I can just go into Google or any other search engine and say, tell me about, landscape gardening or something, right? And Google will bring you back the top results about landscape gardening. But the difference is with ChatGPT, you could put that in context. You could give it a human context around landscape gardening. You could say, I am designing a landscape garden for a commercial enterprise. It's building X feet by X feet, X stories, has these topographical characteristics. You can load it up with as much information as you can, then tell it to draft you the landscape plan that you're looking for, which you can't do on Google, right? And so it increases your productivity and the amount of output that you're enabled to pull out of the system exponentially.
I agree. There's a good question here. I'm gonna bring it here and I'm gonna actually read it.
Yeah.
How do you ensure that AI created materials is not plagiarism? Conchita, this is a very good question. This came up in a conversation I was having recently about plagiarism and who actually owns the content. Who actually, is it really original? And there was this question, well, it's not original because you're getting it from the AI. and the AI is getting it from someone who has probably written it before, and it's a very gray area. So I'll just share real quickly how I try to avoid having the same answer as someone else putting in the same question. Now, the interesting thing is with ChatGPT, you can put in the same question twice, and it will give you kind of like a nuanced answer. But what I do, how I use ChatGPT for content is, as Wayne says, I'll ask the questions, but when I get the answer back, I then sit with it for a minute, for a good hour, and I then integrate my own stories, my own corporate experiences, my own life experiences into the various different, subheadings that it's going to give you, because it gives you that. If you just copy and paste ChatGPT, it's going to look like everyone else's copy and paste GPT, because I know I'm able to spot other people's ChatGPT because I'm using it a lot. So I know how it talks in that fancy language and that, salutations and greetings. I don't speak that way. So for you to get it into your own voice, you really have to personalize it. And then, Conchita, I think when you do that, it feels less plagiaristic somehow than if you just copy and paste. But that is a really good question. And here's another thing too. When, as an employer, if you're asking for a writing sample, for example, like back in like when I was an employer, Wayne, right, back employing a bunch of people, and you say, give me a writing sample. Now, that's not really going to tell you how the person write. But I guess what you can look for is, did they take the chat GPT and personalize it in a way where they've gotten some help from chat GPT, however, they've put some of their own humanness in the content. So even for employers, Wayne, employers can try to hide from ChatGPT, but you need to know ChatGPT so you know what you're being given, in terms of work product. How much of it is, just straight ChatGPT. I've heard someone say here on LinkedIn on the PCL page, ChatGPT is making people lazy. It's not making people lazy. It can, but it can make people more sloppy if they're just cutting and pasting. So I would like to hear your thoughts on that, Wayne.
Oh yeah, definitely. You should vet anything before you put it out there, right? ChatGPT has not removed your responsibility to vet the content that you're putting out under your name, right? Or that you're moving around in your company or whatever you're doing with it. So I know there's also some software that's been emerging that's a chat GPT detector, right? Or an AI detector. So that's going to become a thing as well too, where you'll have some kind of filtering system to see whether something, was created by chat GPT or not. But I would just say, I've seen both sides of this. I've seen the side where someone goes to chat GPT, they'll run a query and they'll copy and paste it and just put it out there. And that's just not the right thing to do, because you do run the risk of there could be plagiarism. There could be wrong information in there too. That's, that's also a thing where the GPT brings you back information that may not be accurate. So you're still going to be responsible for the content that goes out under your name. So whatever you do, please vet your content, read it over, and do your homework. And that's the thing. It is not intended to just take over and do all of your thinking and all of your work for you. It is a tool and an assistant that can make you more productive in the work that you're doing.
I agree. I agree about, David says, use it like a library, research, a foundational routine starting point.
Yes.
And that's really how it should be used. And Conchita says, great idea to personalize the data by integrating your own experience and stories. Add a humanist, perfect responses. Thank you for that, Conchita. But this is how I find it very effective. Does it save me time? Absolutely. Like David said, it's a starter. If you're writing a book and you just stuck, writer's block, it's a starter. Yeah. But my warning to employees who are just cutting and pasting, we're all getting smarter. Okay. So that's going to be found out. What my advice to employees is to use it as a research. Use it as a starter. Use it to cut your thinking time in half or even a quarter, cut 3/4 out of it. That's
Yeah.
where I found it to be useful, Wayne. When I
Yes.
have a thought, a concept, it
Yeah.
would take me 4 or 5 hours to kind of like create my first,
Yeah.
draft.
Yes.
The GPT cut that 3-4 hours of draft creation to half an hour.
Yeah.
Its answer comes in about 2 minutes or less, or a minute, and then I have another 30 minutes to really kind of put the bones on it, right?
Yeah.
And so, my thing to employees is don't shy away from it. Let it help you do your work, because unfortunately, I will tell you, and I don't care how smart you are, Chat GPT, I'm just gonna be honest. I think it is smarter than you. Wayne's an attorney for 27 years. I find myself, I'm an educated woman, but I will tell you that Chat GPT blows me away all the time with what it comes back with. Can I use it as is? No, not necessarily. But what it comes back with actually is making me smarter. It's making me a better writer, because as I have to go in and correct and add and tweak, I am also upping my own personal skills. And so we talked about enhancement versus displacement. Now, for those people, Wayne, who are being displaced,
Yeah.
let me take some questions here, Wayne.
Yeah. Sure. Go ahead.
Someone says, Matthew says, AI created material that is being sold, for example, new articles. Should it notify the end user to separate human versus AI material? Matthew, that's such a good question. And Wayne, you have an example of
Yes.
AI material being sold.
Yes.
Give us the example of the book that we purchased on Amazon, and then when you went to go purchase another copy, what you saw. Because to Matthew's point,
Right.
should it notify the end user to separate human versus AI material?
I agree. I think there should be. I
think
believe there should be some disclaimer.
I think it should, Matthew. I
should be.
honestly think it should. I'm trying. I'm not trying to be, judgmental, or I'm just trying to be like, all right, where's the integrity? I'm sitting here telling you that we use it, but how we use it. Where's the integrity when there's materials being sold as is, straight AI? So Wayne, give us an example. It's a great question, Matthew. Give us an example of what you saw on Amazon recently.
Yeah, very good question, Matthew. And I do agree with you that I do believe there should be some disclaimer. I recently went to buy a few books. One book by a guy named Gino Wickman called Traction, which is a book we use, Sharon and I use with some of our clients. We're going to be working with a client through that book. And it's all about how entrepreneurs can gain traction in their business, right? So because we're going to be doing it as a group, we wanted to get extra copies. So I noticed when I went to buy the book Traction that there are all these workbooks that go along with it. So I was like, oh, excellent. We'll have a workbook. So let's get workbooks. So as I went to go look at workbooks, there were several of them. So I was like, what makes one better than the other? Let me go through and vet them. So in doing so, I started to go in and, Amazon gives you the sneak peek. So you can go in and read a little bit of each book. And one right after the other, I could tell there were AI written workbooks, which are positioning themselves as accompaniments to Gino Wickman's book, but they were terrible. Mm-hmm. They were obviously AI. I could tell the way it was written. It was not well written. It was just terrible. And I couldn't believe, and Amazon has to really do a better job of vetting these things, because they shouldn't even be allowed on the platform, I think, because it's just people taking a concept, running it through some kind of artificial intelligence, slapping a cover on it, which you can easily do nowadays too with artificial intelligence, create book covers and all kinds of things and put it out there and sell it to people. And it's really a lot of trash.
Great share. We're only 1 year in with Chat GPT, and as Matthew was pointing out, right, people are selling stuff. You saw it, Wayne. You couldn't believe what you saw. The Chat GPT, the copy. The man's concept put it in Chat GPT and created a workbook, which doesn't really even align as well. And it's only because we didn't buy it, only because we actually have the original, book and the original concepts. We've taught it before, and it really was just garbage. That's the lazy use of Chat GPT. So that's an example there. And so, yes, I do believe there should be a disclaimer. There's another question. I thought AI would learn the algorithms of each individual and produce what it learns from the user. I had heard that promise that your AI will actually, speak in your voice and all of that stuff. I haven't seen it. I've even said, speak in my own voice and, answer this question. And it has not spoken in my own voice. I have to still take the AI and make it into my own voice. So there is hope for humans if AI just can't cross that, because, we all know that the AI voice, we're getting to know it more now. So if you, for example, is a content creator and you're used to writing a certain way, let's say your way of writing was very casual. Hey guys, and now all of a sudden you're saying salutations, greetings,
Greetings, earthling.
Earthlings. Then we know you've gone to AI. So you have to still take that greetings, earthlings, and make it your own. Carmina says, I used it as research and created my first published emotional intelligence planner. I use my own words and ideas, but that Chat GPT helped me start. And Carmen, there's no shame to that. I'm actually writing a little booklet, and it's taken me a while because I have to go through each thing the AI says, because it's a faith book, and really put in my examples, really put in my stories. However, I've been trying to write a book for the past 5 years. So with the AI, it's speeding up that process. But it still does take that work, as you said, putting your own words and your own ideas. And David says, writing with a pen versus a computer is a tool. And David, that's where I want people to think, not to be scared of it. When computers came into, were invented, we were afraid of that for a little bit too, right? But like you said, it's a pen versus a computer. A computer sped up the work. Chat GPT is speeding up the work. You have to differ between AI and machine learning. Let's see. It is maybe a part of AI, but let's one more. AI can't do the job without human reasoning or understanding of emotional intelligence, nor can AI judge, feel, or understand your motivations. That's a good point. Wayne, you wanna touch on that? So this is the opportunity for humans. However, he says AI can't do the job without human reasoning. So how do employees position themselves where they're not in the displacement camp? How can you become a better prompter and user of AI? Because I think that's where we're seeing some traction, so to speak, Wayne.
Yes.
We're seeing opportunities for prompt engineers in AI, right? It's not just asking a random question. I have to ask AI sometimes 5 questions, 5 different ways to get the answer I'm looking for. So you still can't just go into it brain dead and then accept what it gives to you, because it may not be correct. It may not be pertinent. It may not be accurate from the standpoint of what you're really looking to accomplish. So knowing how to prompt your AI is going to be very, 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 very important. And you can. Yes.
No, I was going to say there's a lot of that topic by itself, maybe a different show, because that topic is so deep and so rich. There's a lot to be said about that, because you guys have heard it said before, whether you were talking about computers or whatever, or your own brain, garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the way you're going to get the best responses out of your interactions with tools like OpenAI, Chat GPT, is through knowing how to ask the questions properly. And for some of you, many of you probably already noticed, maybe some of you are watching this, you don't know. Those are called prompts. The questions that you ask of the AI, it's called a prompt. So that's how you prompt the AI to respond to you with whatever you're looking for. But the prompt is just beyond, like, for example, on the one that I shared with you, I wrote a prompt, which was, please give me a tweet that celebrates Good Friday, right? That's a prompt. That's a question that I asked of ChatGPT. But hey, maybe I wanted to go further. So I can ask ChatGPT to tell me, ChatGPT, first, I'd like to hear your understanding of Good Friday. And then it would tell me what its understanding is. Then I could say back to it, okay, I want this kind of context around it.
Mhm.
And then right back to me when when you feel that you understand what I'm saying. And you could have a dialogue with the machine, which is also part of what Sharon was talking about earlier about training the machine or
AI.
the bot or the chat GPT, the GPT, however you want to refer to it as, on your voice and on your way of speaking and on your context. All of that really matters. So in terms of for the future and for employees who are looking to be in the enhancement camp, not in the displacement camp, learning how to write prompts and how to speak to the GPT and get the information that you really need out of the GPT by creating queries and a conversation and having it learn your voice and learning your mission and your vision and your values and where your company's trying to go and all of that is just going to be huge. And so that is a big area for any business owner or employee or anyone that's working either side of a problem to become really, really, really good at. Otherwise it won't work for you the way you want it to.
Yes. When that was question 1 out of the 10 questions I had intended to ask on this show, and obviously we're already 35 minutes in, so we're not going to be able to answer, maybe only cover 2 questions. But I'm going to put another question up here, and I want to make a comment on it. What are the key ways in which AI is transforming traditional job roles and industries today? So I read recently, Bill Gates was on Trevor Noah's podcast, and he was saying he could see a 3-day work week coming soon because of the efficiency of AI.
Right.
And again, I want to say to the employees out there, okay, this is what Bill Gates is saying. A 3-day work week is most likely going to be 4-day work week is now a thing. Okay, so that's now a thing. It's no longer a surprise. 3-day work week is now on the horizon. That's now in conversation. And you know how it is, Wayne. When you start to talk about something, all of a sudden it becomes real. So what do you do with the extra 2 days? So for an employee sitting in that chair, how can you level up your skills to where you're either finding a fit in the AI world, right? Or you're enhancing the AI. Because I read in Psychology Today where they asked 50 questions of the AI, of real problems, right? Real people's issues. And then they asked AI to answer, and they asked therapists to answer. Of course, the AI, when they did the testing, the AI won. They felt the AI answered better, right? However, even though the AI won by 75 to 25, the people who were actually part of the experiment said they would still prefer a human, even though the AI is better, because for what someone says, humans actually do understand you. AI is giving you accurate information, not necessarily with the human touch, or the human nuances. And so I say that to say there's a value, of course, in this AI world. And, we're talking about AI, taking over and, become even more advanced. But there is a value to being human too. But this is an opportunity for us now as humans to say, okay, this is happening. This is encroaching on our lives. And there's a lot of good stuff, but there's a lot of negative stuff to it too. But there's a lot more good to it in terms of even the medical care, precision medicine, accurate diagnosis. There's a lot that's happening. But where does that leave me? You, the employee, you, the leader, you, that department manager, that department head. When you look and you see you have in your department, maybe 30, 40 people, but you know that you can bring an AI system in there and could possibly eliminate 25, half the people in your department. What do you say to those other half? And how do those other half prepare for this? Because if they go somewhere else, it's the same thing that's happening. So, how is AI transforming traditional jobs and industries today?
I think you just mentioned one right there. I'm in the legal industry, and I can tell you right now, I recently saw something in our bar journal. I'm a Florida lawyer, the Florida Bar Journal, where it was bringing up that issue as an alarm bell for paralegals and legal assistants throughout the state of Florida. And, I'm not here to panic anyone I love my legal assistants and my paralegals. I've had amazing legal assistants and paralegals over the years. But I will tell you that this technology enables me to get the work of a legal assistant or a paralegal, not 100%, right? Like you just said, Sharon, there's that human element, there's the experience element, et cetera, that goes along with it. Not 100%, but in some instances, it's like 85%. So if I can go from zero, or if I've got 5 people doing that work and they're all giving me 100%, and I can use one AI that can give me 85% times 5, then it becomes almost I don't want to say it's a no-brainer, because it isn't a no-brainer. You really got to think deeply through these things, and you've got to demonstrate compassion and care and empathy in the leadership you're exhibiting towards your support staff and team members and so forth. But it does become an issue as to then, wow, what are we going to do with this workforce? How are we going to integrate them or help them to level up to bring other critical skills to what we're doing as an organization? But that is a real thing. And that's just one example of it. And other people that are on this call, I'm sure you can think about it in your industry. If you're in the medical industry, you could probably see some of this. Manufacturing, digital marketing. I'm thinking of the digital marketers, Sharon, the copywriters, the logo creators and the tagline creators and all of that. Right now, if I was creating a bottled water company, and I wanted, what are some potential taglines? I could literally feed into the GPT. Here, our core mission, our values, here's where we're trying to go, here's who we are, give it all the context, and then say, given now what you know about us, also, why don't you just go out onto Bing, do some research on who we are as a company, and then with all the information I've given you, the information you're able to come back, I'd like your top 10 best taglines for my company, or top 20, or whatever. And so this is what we're dealing with. So I'm just seeing that certain industries just are seriously going to be disrupted, and it's a question of whether you can see it now and figure out how you can pivot within it to remain relevant or to go even beyond that.
To your question, Conchita, Wayne just mentioned about the legal industry. I will say to you, which industry? Honestly, all of them. When I heard about the McDonald's in Texas that was using AI as part of the AI McDonald's, I was like, okay, that's fast food. How can you replace fast food workers? But when I read how they were doing it, the McDonald's said, look, we didn't fire anyone. However, we have them focused on cooking. And then the customer related stuff is AI driven. And they stick with the core competency. In the medical field, for example, it's all that paperwork processing that's being handed off to AI. And then when you get more intense, talk about personalized medicine, where I think it was Bill Gates who said, AI is going to be the biggest thing to democratize medicine, precision medicine, and making it more accessible for everyone. And that's a good thing, more accurate, personalized, readings of your particular issue and disease and your own particular body and genetics and makeup. So it's going to affect, I think, every industry. So that's why the question is, how do you position yourself to ride this wave? Winsome said something, we should be clear, AI has been around for decades. However, I know you are all aware of that ChatGPT is only a new application that's been highlighted and popularized. That is true. AI has been around. Anytime you use a computer to do something that a human could do, but not a computer is doing, it's artificial intelligence. However, what we have all seen in the last year with ChatGPT and other things, that's why people like you keep mentioning Bing, Wayne, which is owned by Microsoft. Microsoft made a huge investment in ChatGPT. And that's the reason why when that CEO was being displaced, Microsoft was going to take them, because they actually built it into Bing. They're using some of that technology. Yeah. So Microsoft has really invested heavily in that. And so what we're seeing, Winsome, although AI has been around for a while, it wasn't at the level of use that it is right now.
Yeah, and on that topic, I would say too, Sharon, that's true. It's been around for a while, but guess what? It exponentially learns.
Yes, it does. That's good. That's a great point. That's a great point, Wayne.
It is exponentially learning. Now, in the past year that ChatGPT has been in use, I forget the number, so I'm not going to quote it here. You guys can go look it up. But I think it's like 500 million users or something. Like, now all of those users, including myself and Sharon sitting here, we're putting these test cases in there. We're putting questions in there. We're asking it to retrieve us data. We're putting in queries. We're writing prompts and asking it questions. And the artificial intelligence is taking all of that massive data and learning and growing faster and faster and faster. So yeah, it's been around a long time, but not at the level of power that it is today. And I can imagine in the next 6 months, God knows what some of these models are going to be able to do.
That's right. Ms. Laura said chatbots are for customer service.
Yeah.
Some of the disruption, cashier to self-cashier, human resources for orientation, training of employees, school systems are using AI for online learning, testing up. I mean, I don't think there's any industry that's going to be spared at all. So it comes back to, how do you as an employee integrate this into your next level of learning, embrace it, and you have it enhance your work, and how you as an employer, how are you going to navigate your heart is what I'm going to say. When navigate your heart, when you have 25 people in this department,
right?
And with AI, you could cut this to 10. You got to get rid of 15 people and be more profitable. How do you have those difficult conversations? And that's something that you really want to think about. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna put something here at the bottom here. I've actually created like a little cheat sheet on our website for you guys. It's sharon.gill.com AI-at-work. It's a PDF. It's about 5 or 6 questions that you as a manager or an employer can have a conversation with your office, with your team. It's about AI. Looking at it, having that serious conversation, asking that question, coming together as a team and saying, okay, it is coming. How do we prepare for it? Yeah. How do we level up for it? What can we do? So it's a 5 or 6 question PDF. That's a conversation starter for your next maybe team meeting, your next staff meeting, where you can begin to have these conversations at work, because employers are going to be impacted either way. You're going to have to lose people that you've been with you for a while. How do you make those decisions? How can you maybe not lose them? But I don't know. From what I'm seeing, there will be disruptions in jobs. So So if you can download that, sharon.gill.com, I mean, AI-at-work, that will give you a conversation starter for your next team meeting. I just want to go with this whole pivot thing. Someone says, I think that is going to be the key to pivoting to survival during this era, both for employees and employers. Pivot. David says transformation into a promise and editors. I don't know what that means, David. Transformation into AI promoters, I guess, and editors. Pivot. We all had to pivot during COVID. And those who couldn't pivot, remember what happened. Those industries that were not light on their feet, they were not technologically savvy, they did not survive, right? And so, AI is the next, I don't want to say it's the next crisis, but it kind of is. It's coming at us so fast. It was just 3.5 2 months ago. Now it's 4.0. And it's more. As Wayne said, it's updated now, 2023 version. And as he said, we're all using it. So we're actually helping the AI to become smarter and smarter. When we reject an answer and tell it what we want, we're making it think better the next time. And everyone putting in that data is making the AI smarter. So as it's getting smarter, we have to also get smarter too, and smart about how we are going to show up in our companies, in our lives. How can we ride this wave in a positive way? It may be entrepreneurship, I don't know, for you, but it's definitely going to impact you. And then someone said it exponentially learns. Indeed, true. Good discussion. Thank you. Thanks, Winsome. And then Conchita said that's a difficult aspect of it all, the process of elimination when everyone is equally important to the team. Yeah, who says and who goes? This is the issue, Conchita. Who stays and who goes? And this is going to be a burdensome task for managers and leaders. So I'm going to go to manager and leader head. Okay, manager and leader head. Okay, you have to make this tough decision. How do you choose? Let me tell you how they're going to choose. Cream rises to the top. They're going to choose the sharpest minds to stay. The ones who are teachable, adaptable, can pivot. And so I will say to the employees, this is not the time to sit on the sidelines. This is the time to up-level your skills, learn about the AI so you can actually bring that to the table. Your AI knowledge, your knowledge of how to use these prompts, your knowledge of how to really get the most out of the AI that's coming. And so on both sides, employees, level up your skills. Employers, you're going to be faced with this decision sooner or later, who stays and who goes. Wayne, I want to give you the final word. And guys, I'm going to tell you, I have 8 more questions on this topic. Questions on bias and ethics, automation. Just a bunch of stuff. So we're going to come back next week with part 2 and try to answer some of these questions on the bias and the ethics and the integrity and some of the not so nice parts of the AI. So Wayne,
well, there's always 2 sides of this coin, right? On the employer business side of the coin, you've all heard the stories, right? So there was Blockbuster, and you'd go down to the Blockbuster store on a Friday, right, and pick out your popcorn and your Blockbuster videos and take them home. And along comes this little company called Netflix. And when people told Blockbuster about Netflix, they said, forget it. People want to go down to the store. You see your neighbor, which is true. I'd bump into my neighbors down there often. We're all picking out movies and everything. People want that experience. They're not going to go for that bah humbug. Well, we know how that story came out, because streaming was a disruptive technology. Mm-hmm. And guess what? People much preferred to sit at home on their couch in their shorts and stream movies rather than drive down to wherever the local Blockbuster was, right? So on the employer side, we're just going to have to be savvy, adaptable, in tune, and willing to make some big, changes and big decisions, or we are going to get torched by other companies that adopt this and do it well. And then on the employee side, I actually, again, went to my own ChatGPT and asked it that question. I said, hey, ChatGPT, please write me a short summary of why AI will replace many jobs. And AI said, oh, artificial intelligence is capable of performing certain tasks faster, more accurately, and at lower cost than humans.
Yeah.
As a result, many jobs in various industries, from manufacturing to healthcare, are at risk of being replaced by AI-powered automation. This increased efficiency and productivity, which is really where it's really at, may bring benefits, but it also poses challenges for workers who may need to adapt their skills to remain relevant in a changing job market. So I'll let ChatGPT actually have the last word, Sharon.
That's right. And there's a couple comments that came in. There was one that was particularly interesting. But those that embrace and knowledgeable AI will be those who want to stay with employers. I agree. But this gentleman right here, Doug, he says, when you ingest the whole of societal knowledge via AI, you will naturally provide a seedbed for sin to take root among the wheat. And Doug, we and I are we're actually lay pastors as well. So we're from the Christian faith. And so we wanted to next episode, next week, we'll delve into some of that stuff. One of the things I mentioned was that AI is also being integrated in the church. Whether we know it or not, it is there. So how do Christians, for example, view AI, not run away from it because it's infiltrating everywhere? And so I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it is a fact. And David says, which company do you choose? The one with AI or use a pencil? Cost and quality of product and service. And David, that's to your point. AI will be chosen, right? And great point. COVID was a precursor to this transition. Yes, but it's still difficult to ride the wave. Thanks for the gem. Cream rises to the top. This has been one of the most informative sessions on AI ChatGPT today. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Thank you so much, Conchita. And come back next week. I have 8 more questions. I probably can get through 3 or 4 of those, because we're going to go a little bit into the ethics, the biases that is inherent, in AI, not because it wants, but just because they're taking data from the internet. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that next week. So thank you, guys. You guys were an awesome audience. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. And let me just put back again here on the screen. Again, we're all about having conversations, okay? So how can you have a conversation with your team? This is a free PDF download. It says 5 or so questions, maybe 6, that you as a manager can have with your team as to how do you integrate AI in the organization. All right, take care, guys. Wayne, thanks again for being here and for sharing. We'll see you again next week. Take care.